In the last video, we looked at how to prove sine rule, the formula of sine rule. Now, for mathematics exam purposes, you probably might not be asked to prove the sine rule formula in examination, but it's just good that you know how to prove it. Now, I hope you can still remember what the formula is. We have A over sine A equals to B over sine B equals to C over sine C. Now, depending on what you're given and what you're asked in a specific question, that would tell whether you are going to use these two, or you are going to use these two, or you are just going to use A over sine A equals to C over sine C. Now, you are going to understand what I mean by this perfectly when we take questions. But before we take examples, I want to answer the question, when do you use sine rule? Now, when do you use sine rule? Now, more often than not, you use sine rule when you know two sides, one angle, and you are told to find the second angle or a second angle. The second scenario is when you know two angles and then you know one side and you are told to find the second side. Do you understand? All things being equal, you use sine rule when you have these two scenarios. Now, as you solve, you will realize that the side must be facing the angles. Now, having said this, let's take an example. So we have this question: a triangle ABC has line AC equals to 12 centimeters, angle ABC equals to 40 degrees, angle BAC equals to 100 degrees, and we are told to calculate line BC. Now, the first thing you want to do is to represent this in a diagram. So we have triangle ABC. We are told that line AC is 12 centimeters. So this is 12 centimeters. Now, angle ABC is 40 degrees. Now, whenever an angle is represented this way, the angle that's been referred to is the angle in the middle. So it means angle B is 40 degrees. Do you understand? Now, in this case, angle BAC means angle A is 100 degrees. Does this make sense? Now, we are told to calculate side BC. So we have calculate this part. Now, if this is an exam, you need to recall the sine rule on a rough sheet. So remember, it's A over sine A equals to B over sine B equals to C over sine C. Does this make sense? Now, we can now adapt this formula to the question we are given. Now, look carefully. Remember, is this side over the angle equals to this side over the angle? Does that make sense? So we have line BC all over. What angle is it facing? A. So we have sine A. Does this make sense? Equals to line AC, which is the side we are given, sine B. Does that make sense? Side over the angle that is facing equals to side over the angle that is facing. Do you understand? Alright, so let's slot in the value. From the diagram, we know that BC is what we are looking for. We know AC is 12 centimeters. We know that angle A is 100 degrees. And then we know that angle B is 40 degrees. So we slot this into the formula. Does this make sense? Now let's solve the remaining somewhere by the side. So we should have line BC all over sine A is what? 100 equals to line AC is 12 all over sine B is what? 40 degrees. Do you understand? So we have line BC all over sine 100 is what? You can do that with your calculator. So we have sine 100 as 0.9848 equals to 12 over sine 40 is 0.6428. Now we are going to cross multiply. So we have 0.6428 times line BC equals to 12 times 0.9848 is 11.8176. So to find line BC, we divide both sides by 0.6428 all over 0.6428. So this cancels this. We are left with line BC equals to 11.8176 divided by 0.6428 is 18.3846. Now if we are told to take it to, let's say, one decimal place, we are going to be having BC equals to 18.4 centimeters, and this is our answer. So do you understand? So this is how we solve using sine rule. Does that make sense? So don't forget, sine rule is A over sine A equals to B over sine B equals to C over sine C. But what you need to know is that basically what sine rule means is that the side given all over the angle it's facing equals to the side you are asked to find all over the angle given. Does that make sense?